Long ago, in a small village, there lived a man called Oga Kule. Oga Kule was known by everyone, not because he was hardworking, but because he was the laziest man in the whole land. While the men and women of the village woke up early to go to the farm, carrying their hoes and cutlasses, Oga Kule would still be lying down in his small hut, snoring like a big drum. His mates would sweat under the hot sun, planting yams, cassava, and corn. But Oga Kule would yawn, turn from side to side, and cover himself with his old wrapper. If you passed by his hut, you would hear him mumbling in his sleep, "Let me rest more, work can wait." Everyone shook their heads and said, "This man will die of hunger one day." As you watch, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Truly, Oga Kule was suffering. While others harvested food from their farms, he would beg for yam peels or leftover soup. Children mocked him, singing, "Lazy Kule, too lazy to even chew." He didn't care. He would laugh and reply, "Don't worry, one day my time will come." The village elders were tired of advising him. They told him, "A man who refuses to sweat will never eat sweet food." But Oga Kule never listened. To him, sleeping was sweeter than farming. But unknown to him, fate was about to change his life in a way no one could believe. One hot afternoon, while pretending to fetch firewood in the bush, Oga Kule's eyes fell on something strange lying under dry leaves. His lazy life was about to take a turn that would shake the entire village. One afternoon, Oga Kule carried a cutlass and told the villagers he was going to fetch firewood. But deep inside, he only wanted to find a cool tree to sleep under. As he walked into the thick bush, he yawned loudly and scratched his head. Suddenly, his leg hit something hard. He bent down angrily, thinking it was a stone that disturbed his rest. But when he cleared the leaves, he saw a small black pot, shining as if it was calling his name. "Ahoy, who threw away pot here?" he asked himself. He touched it, and the pot felt warm, like it was alive. Curious, Oga Kule carried it home. He didn't know it was a magic pot. Later that night, when he got home, he checked his pocket and found the only money he had, just one small note. For fun, he dropped it inside the pot. Suddenly, the pot shook, and before his eyes, more money began to fill the pot until it was full. Oga Kule's eyes grew wide like a lantern. Is this dream or real life?" he shouted. He quickly grabbed the money, counted it, and rolled on the floor with joy. For the first time in his life, he felt like a king. That night, he could not sleep. He kept laughing, dancing, and even singing songs of victory. He said, "From today, I, Oga Kule, will never suffer again. Lazy man has become rich man." But little did he know, the magic pot had a secret, and that secret would one day bring big trouble. From that night, Oga Kule's life changed. He no longer begged for food or scraps. Every morning, instead of going to the farm, he would lock his door, bring out the magic pot, and put one little thing inside. If it was rice, the pot would overflow with rice. If it was cloth, the pot would fill with many beautiful wrappers. Oga Kule became rich overnight. He built a bigger hut, wore fine clothes, and ate meat every day. The villagers began to wonder. "Oh, is this not the same lazy Kule who used to beg for soup? How come he is now living like a chief?" they asked themselves. Even the children who once mocked him now greeted him with respect. "Good morning, Uncle Kule," they would say, and he would smile proudly, forgetting the days of hunger. The elders shook their heads in confusion. They could not understand where his sudden wealth came from. But Oga Kule kept his secret well. He hid the pot in the most secret place in his room, under his bed, deep in the ground. Anytime he finished using it, he would cover it with cloth and push his bed over it. Nobody knew what was happening in his room. Still, in every story, there is always one person who watches closely. In Oga Kule's case, it was his neighbor, Madam Ebubu. She was a sharp-tongued woman, always spying through her window, always poking her nose into other people's matters. And when she noticed Oga Kule's sudden riches, her heart began to burn with curiosity. Madam Ebubu was not an ordinary woman. She was sharp, clever, and had eyes like a hawk. From her compound, she watched Oga Kule every day. She noticed that he never went to the farm, yet his house was full of food, clothes, and even money. She murmured, this lazy man is hiding something. How can a man who sleeps all day be richer than those of us who sweat in the sun? No, something is fishy. One afternoon, when Oga Kule went to the market, Madam Ebubu tiptoed near his window. She peeped inside but saw nothing unusual. Just mats, a bed, and some old calabashes. She shook her head. Maybe he is using juju or stealing from somewhere. Still, she refused to give up. Every day, she watched him like a cat watching a rat hole. Sometimes she would pretend to be sweeping her yard, but her eyes were fixed on Oga Kule's hut. Sometimes, she even followed him secretly to see where he went. But Oga Kule was careful. He never used the pot where anyone could see. He always hid it deep inside his room, under his bed. Madam Ebubu grew more frustrated. I must find out his secret, she said, biting her lip. One day, he will make mistake, and when that day comes, I will catch him red-handed. And truly, her day of discovery was coming faster than one hot evening. Oga Kule returned from the market. He was so tired from carrying meat and palm wine that he forgot himself. Instead of hiding the magic pot under the ground as usual, he lazily dropped it right on top of his bed and went outside to ease himself. That was the very moment Madam Ebubu had been waiting for. She had been pretending to pound yam in her mortar, but her eyes were on his hut. When she saw the black pot sitting carelessly on the bed, her heart leaped. Aha, she whispered, wiping sweat from her face. So this is the treasure he hides. A dirty old pot. Is this what he's guarding like gold? She chuckled to herself and shook her head. Foolish man. But just as she was about to leave, her golden earring slipped from her ear and rolled across the floor into the pot. She gasped, Chinik. My earring. She rushed forward, trying to pick it up. But before her eyes, the pot began to shake. The single earring multiplied, and within seconds, the pot overflowed with earrings, spilling all over the bed. Madam Ebubu's mouth hung open. Her hands trembled as she picked them up, her eyes shining like someone who had just discovered a hidden kingdom. So this is the secret, she whispered, clutching the earrings to her chest. This pot can multiply anything. Huh. From today, my life will change forever. She quickly grabbed as many earrings as she could and ran out before Oga Kule returned. That evening, when Oga Kule came back inside, he found the pot still on the bed. He laughed lazily, saying, lucky me. Nobody saw it. He pushed it back under the bed, not knowing that Madam Ebubu now carried his deeper secret in her greedy heart. From the moment Madam Ebubu discovered the magic pot's power, her mind was no longer at rest. She could not sleep, she could not eat, she could not even greet her neighbors without thinking about the pot. If one small earring can turn into hundreds, she thought, then what if I put bigger things? I will become the richest woman in this whole land. The next morning, while Oga Kule carried his meat to the market, Madam Ebubu sneaked into his hut. She tiptoed, her heart pounding like talking drums. She lifted the bed gently and found the pot, hidden in the hole. He thought he was smart, she whispered with a wicked smile. First, she dropped one of her fine bone-straight wigs into the pot. In seconds, the pot overflowed with wigs, shining and bouncing as if they came straight from the city. Madam Ebubu laughed so hard that tears rolled down her cheeks. She packed them quickly into a sack and ran home. Day after day, whenever Oga Kule was away, Madam Ebubu would enter his room like a thief. She dropped gold bangles, wrappers, even foodstuffs into the pot. And each time, she grew bolder, greedier, and more careless. She no longer feared being caught, she only dreamed of what next she could multiply. But one day, her greed pushed her too far. She returned from the market with a fat, live chicken she had bought for Christmas. As she tied its legs and looked at the pot, she grinned. If small things can multiply, imagine if I put this chicken. I will have hundreds of chickens in one night, she said. Little did she know that the pot had one rule: it could never multiply anything with blood and life. By trying to break this rule, Madam Ebubu was about to unleash a disaster that would shake the whole village. Madam Ebubu waited until Oga Kule went out, then rushed into his room with the fat Christmas chicken. She tied the chicken's legs tight and pushed it into the pot. At first, nothing happened. She frowned and muttered, maybe it would take time. Then suddenly, the pot began to shake. The ground rumbled. Before her eyes, not one, not two, but dozens of chickens began flying out of the pot. They filled the room, flapping their wings, crowing, and scattering feathers everywhere. Madam Ebubu clapped her hands with joy. Yes. I am rich. I have chickens for life. But her laughter died quickly. The chickens were not normal. Their eyes glowed red, their beaks looked sharp like knives, and their claws scraped the floor like iron. The first chicken pecked her hard on the arm, leaving a deep wound. She screamed. Another jumped on her back, biting and tearing at her clothes. Yezu! Chinik! Somebody help me, she cried, running around the room. But the more she struggled, the more chickens came out of the pot, angry and wild. They began chasing her, pecking her skin until blood poured. The once greedy smile on her face turned into a mask of pain and fear. With a final scream, she pushed the door open and ran out into the compound. But the chickens followed, flapping and biting, chasing her across the village like demons. Children screamed and ran, women dropped their firewood, and men grabbed sticks to fight. The village had never seen such madness before. And as Madam Ebubu rolled on the ground, crying and bleeding, the people gathered around. Tell us the truth, the elders shouted. Where did these evil chickens come from? With tears in her eyes, Madam Ebubu opened her mouth to confess the secret of the magic pot. The whole village gathered, shouting and confused as the evil chickens chased Madam Ebubu. She rolled on the ground, wailing as the birds pecked and scratched her. Help me! Help me, I beg you, she cried, but the elders stood firm. Woman, the oldest elder thundered. These are not ordinary chickens. They are demons. Where did they come from? Madam Ebubu shook her head, crying, but the chickens tore at her wrapper, leaving her half naked in shame. She could not bear the pain anymore. Finally, she screamed, "It is Oga Kule. It is his pot. The pot under his bed. That is where I found it." The crowd gasped and turned toward Oga Kule's hut. At that very moment, Oga Kule was returning from the market with palm wine on his head. He froze when he saw the madness in his compound. His jaw dropped. What in the name of spirits is happening here? The elders grabbed him and pulled him into the center of the crowd. Kule, they shouted. Is it true? Do you keep a pot of witchcraft under your bed? Oga Kule's heart beat fast. He tried to deny, but the pot itself was shaking under his bed, making a loud humming sound that everyone could hear. The chickens screeched louder, pecking Madam Ebubu until she fainted. Finally, Oga Kule fell to his knees. Yes, it is true, he confessed, tears in his eyes. I found the pot in the bush. It multiplies anything you put inside. I used it to get rich. But I swear I never used it for evil. She is the one who put chicken inside. The villagers gasped again, their voices rising in anger, shock, and fear. Now that the secret was out, both Oga Kule and Madam Ebubu stood exposed before the whole village, waiting for their judgment. The village square grew silent except for the screeching of the evil chickens. The elders stood tall in their white wrappers, their walking sticks striking the ground. The oldest among them, Baba Okoro, raised his hand and said in a deep voice, "Today, truth has walked into the open. The pot has brought riches, but it has also brought shame and danger." The crowd murmured, pointing fingers at Oga Kule and Madam Ebubu. Some shouted, "Punish them. They brought demons to our land." Others whispered in pity, shaking their heads at the sight of Oga Kule crying like a child. The elders turned first to Madam Ebubu. "You, woman, were greedy. You spied, you stole, and you disrespected what did not belong to you. Because of your selfishness, the chickens of blood came out and almost destroyed us all. Do you accept this?" Madam Ebubu, bruised and bleeding, nodded with shame. "Yes, elders. My greed has finished me. Forgive me." Then they turned to Oga Kule. "And you, Kule? You are a lazy man who refused to work. You found a pot of power and instead of using it for the good of the village, you used it only for yourself. Now see how it has exposed you. Do you accept this?" Tears rolled down his cheeks as he bowed his head. "Yes, elders. I was foolish. I should have listened when you told me that a man who refuses to sweat will never eat sweet food." The villagers waited, their eyes wide. Everyone wanted to hear what judgment would fall. Would the elders destroy the pot? Would Oga Kule and Madam Ebubu be banished? The tension was heavy, like rain about to fall. Finally, Baba Okoro raised his staff and declared, "The pot must be destroyed before it destroys us all. And both of you must pay the price for your greed." At Baba Okoro's command, strong young men entered Oga Kule's hut and dragged out the magic pot. It shook violently as if it knew its end had come. The evil chickens screeched and scattered, their glowing eyes fading as the pot was carried into the village square. The elders formed a circle and began chanting old prayers, calling on the gods of the land to bind the pot's evil. Suddenly, the pot cracked, sparks of fire shot out, and a loud boom echoed across the village. When the smoke cleared, the pot was gone, turned to dust. The chickens vanished with it. The villagers sighed in relief, clapping their hands and praising the elders for their wisdom. But the judgment was not yet over. Baba Okoro faced Oga Kule and Madam Ebubu. "From today, let this be a warning to all. Greed and laziness walk hand in hand, and both bring destruction. If you want wealth, use your sweat, not magic." Oga Kule was ordered to work on the village's communal farm for 1 whole year without pay, so he would finally learn the value of hard labor. Madam Ebubu was made to sweep the village square every morning for the same period, so her pride would be broken. Both accepted their punishments with bowed heads. As days passed, Oga Kule's hands became strong, his back tough, and for the first time in his life, he felt the joy of eating food he truly worked for. Madam Ebubu, humbled and quiet, no longer spied on others or mocked them. The village lived in peace again. And so the story of the lazy man and the greedy woman spread far and wide. Parents told it to their children, reminding them, "He who refuses to work will starve, and she who is greedy will fall." Wealth without sweat is a curse, not a blessing. Laziness may give short-time pleasure, but hard work is the only true path to lasting success. Greed blinds the eyes and leads to destruction, contentment brings peace. Every secret done in the dark will one day be exposed in the light. If you were Oga Kule, would you have used the pot or thrown it away? Do you think Madam Ebubu deserved the punishment more than Oga Kule? Can riches without work ever bring real happiness? Why or why not? Who do you blame most for the evil chickens, Oga Kule for hiding the pot, or Madam Ebubu for her greed? If such a magic pot existed today, do you think people would use it or fear it? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more stories like this.